Hello my friends, Rachel Archelaus here, and I realized today that I've achieved time and money freedom and that I haven't always been a lady of leisure with my own business, and that I actually used to sleep in my car between jobs to make a couple $100 a month so I could pay my rent and buy some food. And basically that amounted to like a tray of store-made chicken nuggets for dinner all week. And so I can look back now and see all the steps that I took to get money and time freedom, and how it wasn't some master plan. It was a lot of little tiny things, little tiny decisions. And I just want to share that with you so that you can see that it's absolutely possible for you, no matter where you're starting or where you are or where you've been or where you want to go, because this is not out of reach. This is not unattainable. This can absolutely happen for you. So if you are looking for more leeway in your schedule, more time to yourself, more money for yourself, less stress, like optimism and happiness in your life, then definitely keep watching. Okay, so if you've watched any of my other money videos, you will see that I grew up in a regular middle-class household. I could buy food and I didn't buy it. My parents had plenty of money for food and clothes and shelter. We didn't go on any extravagant vacations or anything, but it was great. I didn't know if there was a problem, right? It was all just pretty cool. And I'm really grateful for that. The only thing that was missing was money education. I didn't know about savings. I was encouraged as a young adult to have credit cards and to use them for things. And, that was fine. I paid the price for that in my early 20s. I got into a lot of credit card debt, but I got myself out. And as a young adult, I lived on my own with my husband. I was smart enough to get married at 20, so there's that, but we'll leave him out of this. I had to pay rent. I had to buy my own food, right? I was an adult now. I wasn't living with my parents, and I had to support myself. Yes, I had a mate who was contributing, but he didn't always have a job, and I had to make sure that I could pay the bills. So at this point, did I know that I wanted to work for myself? Yes, I did. When I was 17, I had a little online gift shop. I would paint terracotta pots and sell them. I had some candles for sale. I made my own paper. I did little things like that. I wouldn't buy from me now. I don't think the stuff I made was necessarily the highest quality, but I made a couple sales. But it became really clear that that was not going to be enough to support me in any way. I don't even think I would have been able to buy dinner once a week on what I made at that. So I had lots and lots and lots of jobs. At one point, I was working at FedEx in the morning from 4:30 to 7, making $130 a week. And then I had to go nanny during the day, and I went to school at night, and then I also waitressed at IHOP during that time, and I would just stack all of those things on top of each other and sleep whenever I could, which was usually in my car in between things. And it was a lot. It was really stressful. It wasn't a piece of cake, but I also wasn't complaining about it because I was getting to go to school, and I was also on my own, and the jobs I had, I just viewed them in the best way that I possibly could. That's really the first key that I noticed that was working for me. I was a positive person. Now, I hadn't always been. In my teen years, I was clinically depressed. I was put on medication by a psychiatrist. My mom called me a zombie because I never smiled. I was really, really out of it. I thought sunsets were pollution. I thought songbirds were stupid. I was really negative. My dad even called me out for it, and he's never said anything negative about me whatsoever, but he was being honest. And during that time, what did I let into my life? just a lot of mediocre stuff, you know? Luckily, I had some exceptional people in my life that were able to help me through. And you could say that I cut off some opportunity by being so negative, because I ended up dropping out of high school. I dropped out of an arts program that I was accepted to and had to audition for to get a spot. I didn't go right to college after high school because I dropped out of high school. I was thinking about being an art therapist or a regular therapist, and I was looking into colleges and, you know, really good colleges in Chicago, in California, and I didn't do any of that. So I know a lot of people think that opportunity doesn't come around again, and that if you mess something up, then you're kind of screwed. And yeah, my life was really different because I didn't take those opportunities, but I turned out great. Like, I don't regret anything. So if you're in a position right now where you're not feeling comfortable to take a really big leap, know that that's okay too, because you can take your time in feeling better and getting more comfortable in your life, and there will be another way to get what it is that you wanted in the first place. So I wasn't always positive, but when I became more positive, more open, more appreciative of what was already in my life, more opportunities arose that I didn't have to plan for. I got a babysitting job early on because of my dad. He just knew someone who was looking for a babysitter. The little girl happened to be special needs. And then when it came time to apply for that nanny job after I'd moved out, they wanted me because I had worked with a special needs girl. And I'm laughing because back in the day, I was still so, like, socially inept, broken. I was a mess. I mean, I literally had a tooth hanging out of my mouth. Like, I would not get this tooth pulled. It was a baby tooth. It was like hanging on for dear life. It was really gross. And they hired me even though I had that going on. So I'm like giving away the big stuff here. But that is the kind of play that your vibration has, that the overall momentum of your life has. If you are an optimistic person with open expectations and at least a modicum of belief in yourself, then you will get to where you want to go. But always fighting against where you are, I think, is one of the number one reasons why people stay stuck. So I had all that going on, you know, the nanny, the waitress at IHOP, the FedEx in the morning, the going to school part-time, and I was going to community college, 1 or 2 classes at a time because I had to pay for it. So I was like working it. I didn't have any free time. And I was also at the same time figuring out my health. I have celiac and I had no idea. I just knew like I was really sick and I didn't know what was happening, and no doctors had ever been able to help me. So I was also going through that kind of thing. A portion of my life concluded when I graduated and got an associate's degree at community college, figured out my health, I was feeling a lot better, and I was moving on from the nanny job. And I decided to go to fashion school. And fashion is something I'd always been interested in as a teen, and just style in general and the art of clothing. And making the decision to invest in myself, again, I had to pay for it, but to go to school, it was quite expensive, and indulge myself in this area, that was a huge step in my favor because it was validating a part of me. It was investing in myself. And I excelled there. I got to skip some classes because I already knew how to sew. It was a really great environment for me for a really long time. And so I feel like in tandem with that, I got a better job. I didn't have to waitress anymore. I didn't have to do FedEx anymore and just make like very little money. I got a job in publishing because of my mother. And thankfully, I knew how to do office-y type things. So I got the job at the place that she worked, and it was great. It was second shift, so I went to school during the day, and I was no longer doing 1 or 2 classes. I was going full-time, and I had a full-time job from 4 to 11 p.m. And I couldn't afford to get the health insurance there because I wasn't getting paid that much, but at least it was steady, and it was in a field that I really respected. So I feel like I made this jump up in both areas of my life. Like, I was living a more creative life, which felt really incredible to me. I was no longer just like hustling to pay my rent. And I had a job with people I really enjoyed and in work that I enjoyed doing, even though I was really just doing like data entry. And because I had a more stable platform and more expression flowing out of me, a lot of things happened after and during that job time. That, if you've read my book, you know, when I started doing the intuitive art at the local metaphysical center, that's when that happened, while I was at that job. And I also started up a candle company and a publishing kind of company, totally not even thinking about doing that. That just kind of happened by accident. But all of these creative things started happening while I worked there because I was living more of my truth. And I was letting things happen. I wasn't trying to force or make things happen. And that's really key too. I was very open, was open to the flow of what was coming my way. And I was appreciative of every opportunity. And I was aware and happy enough to like see it as a good opportunity. I could have turned down that job by saying like, no, I'm not going to let my mom get a job for me. I still had to apply, but in, an interview, but she basically got me the job. I could have decided that like, now that I have an associate's degree, I should, go get a proper corporate thing during the day. Like, I could have missed that in so many ways, just like I probably missed going to college at the Art School of Chicago, So when we're open and we're not so judgmental of what's coming to us, it can lead to really amazing things. So anyway, I was open to that. Lots of stuff happened while I was there and after I left that made me feel like a whole human again. And it was kind of like starting my business there. I started, doing my psychic thing and teaching and doing readings. And it was really incredible to honor a part of me that I'd really socked away for a really long time. How many times can I say really? But that's okay. I ended up quitting that job to do my candle company full time because there was no getting around it. Like, my body needed to do that. I've been in that position before. Like, when I quit high school, it was just like there was no decision to make. The decision was already made. And I like to honor those too, because when we fight against that, we become resentful. We die inside. It's never a good idea. So I don't advocate quitting a job before you're ready, before you have money coming in. And I had some money coming in, but I quit that job and I spent like the next week tirelessly working on the website for it and selling things. And it didn't blossom that much. It didn't pay for everything that I needed it to pay for. It was successful in the fact that I had a great reputation. I sold a lot of candles. It was fun. I loved being creative, but it didn't turn into what I have now. And I also got divorced during that time. So there was that too. But being home, selling my candles, I was selling some art on Etsy. It allowed me to get divorced. It allowed me to have the space that I really needed. And even though I did not have my own money to move out, somebody that was just an acquaintance at work invited me to live with her and her son during my divorce. And so, as like kind of weird as that sounds, there was another opportunity waiting for me that I could have pushed away, but I went for it, and it was really fun for a while. I wasn't really prepared to be divorced in the normal sense, like of what you'd want to have, but I had enough to land softly in another place and start to put my life back together. Now, I will say, when I was there, when I was at that person's house, not having a job, my car got repossessed. I couldn't afford my car, and I didn't have the bandwidth to sell it. And I could have easily done that. I could have sold the car and given the money back or whatever and would have been fine, but I just couldn't do it. I just didn't have the emotional capacity to do that. Like, You know, it was really hard for me to get divorced. And if you've ever been in that situation, I'm sure you can relate. And that's what happened. And that was okay. I got by. And I continued on with my candle business at that time. But I also kind of hit my rock bottom. Getting my car repossessed wasn't actually my rock bottom. It was moving back in with my dad. Now, I was an adult at this point. I was like 26 years old and I didn't have a job. I didn't have a car. I didn't have a lot of self-worth at the time because I had just left someone who I thought I would be spending the rest of my life with, who I really, really, really still think was having an affair. And, you know, I just wasn't feeling that great about myself. And here I am moving back in with my dad. And I just felt like a complete failure, to be honest. But luckily, I had a resume up on, I don't remember what the company was called back then, but I think it's Indeed.com now. And someone out of the blue called me and said, "Do you want a job?" And I was like, yeah. And it was an entry-level temp job. Just, you know, data entry, taking notes, organizing things, which I didn't know there were recruiters for. But it actually paid better than any other job that I'd ever had. And I was able to use my dad's car to go to it because he worked in the car industry. He had something else he could use. So that was crazy timing, right? Like, even in my darkest days, I had a bed to sleep in and somebody found a job for me. And I was able to slowly rise back up. This is why I don't want you to get discouraged if you're feeling like you're in a bad place, if you're not feeling happy, if you're not feeling optimistic, because, you know, things are going to happen in life. We're not always going to be on top. So if you can be optimistic while you're in pain, because you know that things are going to work out for you eventually, there's a little hack for you. So I definitely always had the through line of knowing that everything was really going to be okay, even if I wasn't taking it the best at the moment. So I got a great job. I was able to pay my bills. I was able to, you know, build back some self-confidence, go out with my friends and have a good time. And at that time, I continued doing some publishing. So the first book that I published was a total fluke, wasn't meant to happen, was just supposed to be part of a candle collection. But the second one that I published was an international anthology on the afterlife, where I was asserting myself as a psychic medium. I wrote the introduction for it, and I edited the collection of poems in it that I got submitted to from all over the world. We had a big release party in a local coffee shop, and it was just so cool. Some of the poets came and read their pieces, and it was really incredible. And I wasn't planning, like, I didn't have this big business. I didn't even have a checking account. Somebody who created a poetry form, this really amazing woman, bought a book and sent me a check for it, and I couldn't even cash the check. So I sent the check back to her and said, "We can't take your money, here's the book." And yeah, I wanted to be nice to her, but also I couldn't cash her check because I didn't have a Sepphoris Press bank account. So all of this was very janky. It was very unprofessional. It was very slapped together, but it eventually grew into something absolutely incredible. Like, we've been mentioned in the New Yorker, we've been in library industry magazines, like we're in tons and tons of libraries all over the world. Like, we've been in BookCon, we've been in Frankfurt Book Fair. Like, you can start with the capacity that you have, with the knowledge that you have. You don't have to know everything right now, and it can grow. All of that happened. All of those upgrades happened because I didn't give up on myself, because even if my business didn't take off in its, you know, current form, whether publishing or candles or gift shop, I didn't stop trying, but I also didn't try to force anything. I went with it. I was given jobs, fell from the sky for me, and I took them, even if they weren't the most glamorous things. But I just kept building my confidence up, getting into a better position. And I truly believe that is because I had, again, an optimistic outlook. I had a vibration that was open and allowing of cutting in line in front of lots of other people who had their resumes out there, who were applying for jobs. Like, why did that woman find me and my very mediocre resume and give me a job, right? We cannot explain it based on like statistics and probability and all of that stuff. It doesn't make sense. The next job that I applied for after all of that, I got hired. The first interview I went on, I got hired because I knew how to do, I can't even remember what it's called. You know, in Excel, when you put in the equations, I knew how to do that. And no one else that applied for the job knew how to do that. Now, you guys, this wasn't that long ago, maybe like 12 years ago. There are lots of people who know how to do that. There are always lots of people who need jobs. Why was I the only one that knew how to do that day? I don't know, but I got the job. Here I was, again, working a job to pay my bills, not being very creative, not really following up on a lot of my other things, not really doing any publishing, definitely not doing any candles, not doing any psychic stuff. I was bored. But what I got to do was actually be single in my 20s. I hadn't had that. I hadn't had any kind of sexual exploration because the only person I'd ever been with in that way was my husband. And so I am naturally like a very, flirty, sensual person, and the ability to actually act on that. And I wasn't missing that before. I hadn't really thought about it because I was in that like I'm married kind of, mindset. But I had a lot of fun. I had tons of fun. And it was really important for me to know that part of myself. It opened me up in so many other ways. It was liberating and freeing. Every step I took, even the devastating ones, helped me to find a piece of myself that I was previously squashing, right? Like going and doing the psychic Saturdays and, having to like come out to my coworkers so they didn't think I was quitting. Exploring with sexual freedom for the first time. That was absolutely incredible. And just trying to find my way in the world as a single adult female. And the weird thing that happened was I'd had a friend growing up, like in high school, we were really close, kept in touch off and on during our 20s. Well, he was going through a rough time in his relationship. So we were chatting a little bit on iChat just about stuff. On iChat. On Messenger. And I just happened to mention to him, like, you know what I really want? I really want to just like live with someone and write my book and, like have my expenses taken care of. I think I even brought up like, clean somebody's house for like, just be able to live there and write my book. And I looked for that kind of stuff all the time, like caretaker positions, because I lived in Connecticut and there were always stuff like that happening. Like you live in the little outbuilding, the little cabin in the back and just like mow the lawn and do all that stuff. So that was my romantic dream. And the funny thing that happened was a couple years after that, we actually ended up getting together, and I was working at the time, of course, and he gave me the opportunity to go back to college full-time to finish my degree. Not in fashion, but I was going to finish it in psychology. And he already knew that I'd wanted to do that. And so he was like, well, why don't you, move in with me and I'll take care of, food and rent and everything, and you can just go to school. And we had been dating for just a little bit, like a couple months at that point, but we've known each other, half our lives, and he was always just a really amazing, wonderful person. But it was really hard for me to take that. Really, really hard. It was like, I've always worked on my own, multiple jobs at a time if I needed to. I've always done it. It was like so hard to move back in with my dad, even though that was the best thing I could have done. It was so hard to take this opportunity to basically quit my job and go back to school full time. But he was really sincere, and I was like, how can I say no? How can I say no to this? I literally asked for this a couple years ago. And yes, it was to write my books, but here it was just to write papers I wanted to write. I said yes. And I went through school and I became kind of depressed because here I was, like, living in a beautiful little house. We were renting it. I wasn't, working. I wasn't exercising my creativity really. I was like solely focused on this intellectual pursuit. And I was in love. Like, it was really wonderful. I had no reason to be unhappy, but something was missing from my life. And when I realized that, I decided to start back up on my psychic, teaching, coaching business. You guys, people were emailing me like, let's get something in the books. I want to sign up. I want to be a client. I want you to teach a class here. Teach this. This is what to do. It's like the stuff just started rolling again. And that's not to say that I had a full-time income from the start. That's not to say that I didn't question myself. I was very insecure about certain things. I wouldn't put like a services page on my website. Like, I was still a mess, but stuff was happening because the overall momentum of my life was positive, and I was, as hard as it was at times, open to receiving really wonderful, amazing things. Your vibration, your expectation, like, I wasn't expecting anyone to let me live with them and basically cover my expenses to write, but I said it out loud. I was like, what if? I was open about it, and that's why it was able to happen. I was trying to find love early on in my life when I was in that really negative place. Well, I found liberation. I went out on my own and I experienced a lot of different things, and then I found a love that was really lasting. We're still together and we love each other very much, and things are incredible. So when you take steps to live your truth, even if it's difficult, it helps you to accumulate more opportunities that will help you live your truth. Your truth is time freedom. Your truth is money freedom. Your truth is you having a life that feels excellent to you. I graduated college with a bachelor's degree. I started my business. It was going well. I had a lot of momentum, and it was, half online, half in person in Connecticut. And then we moved out west together, and things have just continued to grow. And as things continued to grow, I've continued to grow, and I've pivoted so many times. So it's not like I started one business, I'm still doing that business, and that's why things keep growing. No, I started doing psychic readings and psychic development coaching and teaching psychic development. And then I decided, no, I'm going to teach business. And so I taught small business and how to start your own small business. And then I went, no, I stopped doing that, and I started teaching intuitive art and having my intuitive art certification. My business hasn't really changed that drastically when I've changed topics, right? Like, as many people might leave because it's no longer relevant to them, even more people come in because it is relevant to them. And I've had people on my mailing list and customers for this whole entire time. The people who met me on my first Psychic Saturdays, I'm still in touch with. So when you have a mastery or a handle on your vibration, knowing how to stay positive, how to expect what you want to come, how to be open and relaxed about it, how to keep resources flowing or restart them if they've stopped, if your focus has changed, you've gone a little negative and you notice, oh wait, nobody's coming in. If you know how to realign to get them to come back in, guess what? You're free. If you know how to keep things rolling to support yourself and more, and if you are in charge of your schedule and you know that you can change your mind at any time and things are not going to stop, you are free. And that is what I realized today. So this whole convoluted story was to tell you that I started off making a couple $100s a week, having 3 jobs, getting up at, 4 in the morning, having to drive 3 towns over and sleep in my car before I went to college that I had to pay for on my own, which I'm not complaining about that. I'm just saying, I don't have to work. I don't have to work. And I can decide that I want to be a screenwriter and then have, paying clients say, here, write my screenplay. And that's incredible. I can make a quilt and put it on Instagram and have people buy my quilts. Like, that's incredible. I can get clients call me out of the blue and say, hey, I want to coach with you and I've never met them before. That's incredible. And I know how I did that. And so I know how to keep doing that. And really the reason that I'm making you this video is because for the last, I'd say 2 or 3 years, I feel like I haven't been that dedicated or focused to anything. And it's crazy to say it because I have been. I've been studying, I've been taking these intensive classes on screenwriting, I've several businesses, but my life feels so leisurely. I can take any amount of time off that I want. And I do. Even during the pandemic, I've gone camping several times. I just went to Connecticut a couple weeks ago. I take days off per week if I want to. And I feel like I've been just so relaxed about everything. I haven't been diving in and I just feel like I have all of this freedom. And part of me has questioned that. Rachel, why are you so lazy? Why aren't you really dedicated to all of these things? And the truth is, I am. This is just what time freedom and money freedom looks like. Right? This is it. This is an amazing life. I write when I want to write, and I write a lot, and I coach when I want to coach, and I have more coaching clients than I've ever had, and I work on all of the things that I want to work on when I want to work on them, and I can have help or not help, and I can, make more money or less money, and it doesn't matter because all the money I need comes in automatically. And I'm finally really letting that in. I've been teaching this for a really long time. I know how it works. It's been working for me for a decade now, and I'm finally owning it. So it feels good for me to know that, yeah, I was a hustler because I had to be, because I had to eat. And it did start off with trays of store-made chicken nuggets because that's all I could afford. And cigarettes. I would buy cigarettes before I bought anything else back in the day. Haven't done that in a very long time. But it's okay. It's okay to start where you are. It's okay if your car gets repossessed. It's okay. You can still have what you want regardless of what you've been through. And if you've been through way worse than me, you can still have what you want. Still. And in fact, if you listen to Abraham Hicks stuff, they'll say that the opposite, the bad stuff that we go through, just adds more and more to our vortex. All of those times, the years I didn't get a lot of sleep because I was going to school full time and working until midnight, or working those 3 jobs and going to school, that added this time freedom to my vortex. And I gotta tell you, it's so freaking real. I think about it now, what I would do for $130 a week. I would get up at 4 in the morning. I would drive in the dark, in the cold, in the winter, in the icy roads, several towns over to this job where I'd work for 2 hours, and then I'd have to go on the rest of my day, a full ass day, for $130 a week. That is insane to me now, but I know people still do it, and they do way crazier stuff. Last night I watched a little documentary on the people who drive for Amazon, and I've heard about the pickers at the Amazon warehouses and what they do for their money. It's insane to me, but I get it because I was one of them. You can make so much more than that easily with love in your own business in a way that totally fulfills you, whether it's product-based or service-based, doesn't matter. But I just want you to know that anything is possible. having the job of your dreams, if that is your dream, is possible. Whatever you want can happen for you if you live in joy in whatever capacity you can at the moment, whatever is in your life that brings you joy. Whether it's like everything is shit, but you have really cool nail polish, just focus on the nail polish. Look at your nails all day, or wear your lucky socks, or drink your, lucky tea every day. Like, there's always something you can focus on that will help you make it to that next opportunity. And you focusing on the positive will bring that opportunity to you. So that is how I have climbed the ranks of life. That is how I have found myself to be a time-free, money-free person with endless opportunities in whatever direction I want to go, knowing full well that I will be absolutely supported anywhere I go. That is absolute freedom. If you guys want to learn more about this, the tools that I use to keep it going, to keep the resources flowing, how I get back when I'm down, like anything you want to know about how to do this, just go to our Aligned Up Level event or purchase the recording from the event if the event is over, because it's all there. So I'll leave a link to that below. Love you guys, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.